Hello there, my people of YouTube. I come to you today with a simple question. Why is it that our generation, my generation, the millennial generation, seems like they hate families so much or they hate the idea of family so much? Now, I'm not coming at this just out of the blue. It's something that I saw in particular on this brain dead bird app, as I see some people calling it, over on Twitter. And Twitter is a unique ecosystem. I would put it as Facebook has most of the boomer generation, those older folks, my parents' generation, and older than that, and they're good over there on Facebook. And Instagram is kind of a joiner of the generations. Instagram has the millennials and a bit of Gen Z, the younger people. Gen X, I think Gen X, older than the millennials, those 40-year-olds, etc., they're still liming over there on Facebook too. But Twitter is unique in that Twitter has, to me, a pretty large percentage of millennials, and it's quite toxic. I don't know if it's the millennials have it toxic or it's just the nature of the app, and millennials just so happen to be stewing in this toxic milieu. But maybe as the world's richest man, Elon Musk, recently bought it, there may be some change to it. But it's something that I noticed watching a post over there on Twitter and the responses to it, just how those responses were phrased. And it's something that I find seems pretty common. I haven't been over here on YouTube for a while, at least on my YouTube videos, and I'm trying to rectify that as quick as possible. Recently, I had a bit of a brief injury. I bit my own gum, and that put me out of talking commission for a while. But hopefully, we could be back to making some more of these videos. But yes, this came originally from a tweet I saw over on Twitter, and it read, "For the people that don't want to have any kids, don't you worry that you won't have anyone to spend time with and to take care of you when you're old, no kids, and no grandkids." Well, from the time I read that, to be very honest, this was posted October 20th. That's like a week ago, a little more than a week ago from when I'm recording this. From the moment I read that, I knew what the quote tweets were going to be like, the comments that people would put on this. And let's just see, they didn't surprise. they didn't surprise me. The majority of them, especially coming from my generation, the millennials going from around 25 to 35 and a little upwards, a lot of them were very angry replies. And I predicted, I could have guessed that's what the replies were going to be. But it's kind of curious to me as to why it is like that. Why is it that so many millennials respond so angrily to these kind of thoughts and these kind of suggestions? And I don't think it's an out of place an out of place question. Some people, let's go through some of the replies and see exactly what the problems were. Now, there were hundreds of replies that we obviously are not going to go through, but let's go through at least some that seemed a bit more stereotypical, some that many people said. "Y'all kill me." I digress too. "But I have nieces and a god baby, plus a plethora of other family members and friends who would make sure I'm cared for if need be." That was one of the suggestions I saw. One of the suggestions was that I don't need to have children because I have nephews, nieces, I have godchildren, I have cousins, etc., etc. I have a wide family base that would do it otherwise. That was one, which seemed to go against probably what would have been the majority answer I saw. This is not a reason to have kids, in my humble opinion. Don't assume your children will take care of you when you get older. And also, an awful reason to have them. And lots of responses went down that line. This is a horrible reason to have children. How selfish of you would it be? How selfish of you would it be for you to have children with the idea that they will take care of you when you get older? And I understand what they're trying to say. I understand how this could seem selfish, but I'm asking, what other reasons do you have children that are not selfish? Do you have children purely for the reason of having those children. You know, when I'm there copulating and in the process of making a child, I'm doing that just with the thought that this child is going to enjoy this life so much, and all of my actions here are selfless. I mean, that's a ridiculous thought. I think the vast majority of reasons to have children could seem, or at least be painted as selfish if you think about it. But the child being literally something coming out of the self, something coming out at least of two selves, selfish desire is could also line up with the child's benefit. At least that's the way I see it. Someone could have a selfish idea and still work for the betterment of the child. And so many people were very angry at the idea of having children, with the idea that these children will take care of you. How selfish is that? What kind of wickedness is that? You're having a child just for the purpose of making them take care of you? How cruel are you? But in my mind, I'm thinking, as you get older, it's inevitable. We require work to survive. That's the difficulty of humanity. That's the difficulty of life on a whole. Pretty much all living organisms require some kind of work to survive. The problem being, as you get older, it becomes harder and harder to do that work. So, isn't it expected at some point somebody is going to have to take care of you, or at least partially take care of you? And okay, you might think it's selfish for wanting those people to be your children and making people to take care of you. But isn't it more selfish for you to expect someone else's children to take care of you? Because someone is going to take care of you. Right now in Trinidad and Tobago, and not only in Trinidad and Tobago, many of the Western countries, we are suffering with aging populations. In Trinidad and Tobago, they're talking about raising the NIS pension age. That was pretty much announced as a fact. It's going to happen in the coming fiscal year. They have to raise the pension age from 60 to 65. The reason being, there are not enough young people being born. You see, it's not your money that you saved when you were living that supplies the elderly. It's the money of the current young people that are working. Your money has long been spent. Many people are talking about they have plans and they're going to save and put things in place to take care of that. And I understand that maybe you have really high income right now and you could see that you'll put away a couple million by the time you reach old. There are a couple problems with that. One, as I said, you need to have a very large income right now with enough to save going on to that time. And then when you reach there, are you sure you would have enough trustworthy people around you to properly use the wealth that you would have accumulated? Because let's say you accumulate a couple million. Yeah, someone is going to have to do the things for you, and maybe you have all of that in your plan. You hire a company to do it, and now you're saying that, okay, you trust a company more than you would your offspring. Lots of people in the replies also said that it's not a sure thing. Many people have offspring, and those offspring put them into the nursing homes themselves. And okay, I understand what you're saying. That's true. Many of the old people in nursing homes are put there by their offspring, but that's a risk. But what's the other option? Like, okay, if you do have offspring, there's a chance that your offspring still wouldn't take good care of you and they may still put you in a nursing home. But if you have no offspring, like, what's the chances there? Like, I understand one is a risk, but one seems like much more of a surety. Even beside all of that tweet, that's something that I've noticed a long time now. Like, a favorite of mine, I'll call him a favorite boldly, online of mine, Dr. Jordan B. Peterson. I enjoy looking at a lot of his content. It comes from what seems to be a pretty well thought out basis. I mean, you could disagree if you want, but it seems like this man has put some thought into it, and he has the accolades to say that. Now, something very interesting I've noted, nearly every time his name trends on Twitter, you could go and search Jordan Peterson on Twitter, and like upwards of 50% of what is said is really angry hatred. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, you could disagree with what he says. That's fine. But why does it make you so angry? Why does it seem like our generation has a special hatred for the things of family, or for even hearing someone mention it? How dare you speak about traditional thoughts of family? How dare you, and how dare you even put that on us? Well, maybe it's someone trying to tell you that there is some context to this talk about family, something beyond just making children for making them sick. Another really common one I saw was the idea, if I bring someone into this hell just because I'm worried about being alone, when I'm older, they should leave me alone when I'm older, yes? Okay, I understand that. The earth is pretty difficult. It's a hard life, generally speaking. So if you bring anyone into this life, it's cruel. I understand what you're trying to say, but are you understanding what you're trying to say? Life is difficult on earth. That's the reality of life. It's difficult for pretty much every living creature. You go try to be a cheetah. Look at the infant mortality rate of a cheetah. It's not that high. And most of the cheetahs that die in their cub stage die a pretty brutal death. So are you saying, if you were a cheetah, your recommendation to all cheetahs out there is let your species go extinct? Don't have any more baby cubs. Don't have any more cheetah cubs out there. Life is too hard. And it's wicked to bring a baby into a hard life. That's kind of insane. That logic is the logic that would cause the folding up of life on earth as we know it. Like, you know what? Life is difficult. Let's just not do it anymore. That sounds kind of cowardly, personally. And also, the other side of that is many people speak about the finances. The finances, the boomers have left this earth too barren. There isn't enough resources for us to even have children out here. It's just too difficult. Too much money is required. And thus, it's wickedness to bring a child when you don't have enough resources to support them. You're just bringing them here to suffer. And on the suffering part, I'd put that similar to the cheetah side, where the reality is we're living life right now in the 21st century pretty much easier, far easier, by far, far easier than every human that ever lived before us. When it comes to goods for us to live, the necessary essential goods, food, shelter, that kind of thing, safety, it's never been better to be a living human. Just by the way, on that side of it. So I'm not sure what you're talking about suffering. And on the money side, I find it very interesting that so often I see so many young people, so many millennials, my generation, early 30s, late 20s, the childbearing age of old. So many people at that age talking about the financial situation being impossible, but at the same time, pretty much every consumer good is being sold out. iPhone, what is it at now? 14, that's selling for nearly $20,000. And so many in our generation have them. And they're like, I cannot afford kids, but I afford the new iPhone every year. What do you think about that? Interestingly enough, Tobago is hosting a carnival right now as we speak, and that carnival is basically sold out in the rain. All of the local flights. Hotel Buddy expects 95% occupancy for Tobago Carnival. Tobago Carnival will be officially launched on Saturday, and Tobago Hotel and Tourism Association Vice President Caroline Birchwood James is anticipating at minimum 95% occupancy for the October 28th to 30th festivities. Domestic flights sold out for Tobago Carnival. Flights on the domestic air bridge at the time scheduled for the first ever Tobago Carnival are said to be already sold out. Do you think it's the boomer age group going over there? Do you think it's a set of 50, 60, 70-year-old people hopping on those flights? Or do you think the majority of them are 20s, 30s, and maybe early 40s people going over to support the Tobago Carnival? And I'm not saying you don't spend your money on that, you spend your money where you see fit. But if you're talking about it in terms of an argument against families, we don't have enough money for families, then it's kind of interesting that at the same time we're seeing this, we're seeing a spike in consumerism across the whole Western world. So it doesn't seem to me like the money for families is too little. It seems like the interest in what we spend our money on has skewed away from families into consumerism. And if that's what you like, that's what you like. But bear in mind, consumerism is just buying goods to make you feel good for like what? It boosts your dopamine for maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and then you have to go on to the next good. So if you're talking about getting something to boost your hormones of making you feel good, and that's all you're interested in, might I suggest a child? Because they do that better. If you're talking hormonal boosts, just that spark in your hormone that you want, maybe a child would be better. Something interesting I noticed in the replies is someone within the main replies said, always notice which demographic has an issue with having children. It stems from a deeper issue not discussed. The person who said that in the original replies, their username is Mohammed. And someone quoted that or took a picture of that and used that in the quote tweets and asked which demographic. I might suggest that they may be pointing at a kind of racial bias something here, but I would say it's not unheard of, and it doesn't come without evidence, because there is a specific demographic slant when it comes to the consumer debt side of things. The side of things that says, okay, we cannot have children because of the present state of the world. We are in too much debt. We don't have enough resources. There are some interesting things with that. And as the person pointed out, it's kind of interesting for real to note how many people within a specific demographic decide that children aren't the best, and then look at the results coming out statistically from that. Something very interesting I saw there, an article from Liberty Street Economics. It's a paper that was done, a study, November 17, 2021, not that long ago. Uneven distribution of household debt by gender, race, and education. Household debt has risen markedly since 2013 and amounts to more than $15 trillion. Now, that's very interesting. At the same time, when households have been having less and less children, when the generation to come has been more and more enthusiastic and bold about their desire to not have any children in this world, the debt is increasing. So how is the debt increasing with less children being had? And this study went through and separated it by different gender and different race groups. And there were some interesting conclusions they noted. Student debt. Blacks and women students are more likely to hold student debt by age 30, while Asian students are less likely. So women, females, ladies, are the most likely to have student debt. And black people are the most likely to have that student debt. So the group with the highest likelihood of having that student debt is black women. I wonder if you check the group least interested in having and forming families, which group that would be. Asians are the least likely. And if you look at the group with the most solid family structure, which group do you think that would be? And do you think it's possible that there's a causatory correlation between the high debts of the black women and the low debts of the Asians? And this is talking about student debt here. Studying. They spent a lot of money in school and still owe for it. Credit card debt. Women and racial minority students have lower credit card balances at age 30. Higher credit card debts. So again, the female minorities have the most credit card debts also, which is very interesting to me. The group that speaks most against, or at least could seem like they speak most against having children and families, is the group that spends the most in consumerism. Do you think that's coincidental? And also in this very same study, it was found that those same groups actually hold less debt when it comes to mortgage or car loans that are about building family legacy. They have much less loans in that area. They don't have that many mortgages. They just have credit card and student loan debts. That consumer that debt that they just pay out to someone else. It's nothing to do with building your own legacy, because you may not have your own legacy to build. And very interestingly, in that, many people I've seen speaking against children, and they're talking about, I'm a dog parent now, and I'm seeing the industries moving to support that. A 3-course tasting menu at this restaurant costs $75, but it's only for dogs. That would have never functioned 50 years ago, because people would have known, well, I won't spend $75 on food for my dog. I'll have children and spend that on them. But no, you see, I'm a consumer now. I don't have any children. I'll spend that money on my dog. My dog will die in probably 15 years if I take really good care of him. That's that. There's nothing lasting there. The $75 that I spent every however often on my dog's food just buries into the ground and is passed up to the owner of that restaurant. The owner of that restaurant still gets that $75. I don't. I pay it out from my legacy to someone else. My legacy has no need. My legacy is just to leave manure in the ground to allow another generation to grow on top of me, because I'm leaving nothing beside that manure. And we're seeing, to me, I'm seeing a lot of companies in modern times leaning into that very same thing. They understand the reality that they are creating, and they're enjoying it and pushing for products aimed at that. This dog restaurant with $75 meals, that's aimed at single women calling dogs their dog children. I'm a dog mother. That's what that's aimed at. That's not aimed at a family with a golden retriever named Baxter. No, he will eat his dog chow. They are not going to pay $75 because they have their schools, their children's schools fee to pay. Companies know this. I remember reading this when I was speaking about the abortion discussion recently, and one bank was speaking in the future, in the 30s, I believe the single childless woman demographic is going to be the biggest one, and the one that spends the most. And they're developing their bank measures, they're developing their products to aim directly at that demographic. Something very, very messed up I've noticed, even with this abortion discussion. You could be on whichever side of abortion you want to be, but something I've noticed in this discussion: these US companies will cover travel costs for employees who need an abortion. The US recently had their Supreme Court rule that each state could decide their own laws on abortion, and some states are more pro-life than some. They're more against abortion than some. They're saying no abortions in here, or no abortions till this level. Many private companies have said, listen, if you are employed in a state that doesn't want you to abort that fetus, which fetus is unborn baby, it's just a word game we're playing. If you're in a state that doesn't want you to abort that fetus, we will pay for you to get to a state where you can do it. Great. That company cares about you so much. But very interestingly, at the same time they're doing that, companies are cutting back on maternity and paternity leave. Many employers dial down how much paid time off they give new moms and dads. Many employers are shrinking the number of paid weeks of maternity and paternity leave they will offer. New data show that the share of employers offering paid maternity leave beyond what is required by law dropped to 35% this year. That's August 22nd, 2022. Down from 53% in 2020, according to the Society for Human Resource Management. So, at the same time these companies are willing to pay for you to go get your abortion, they're dropping the amount of money, they're dropping the amount of time they are offering in maternity and paternity leave. Now, do you think these companies really care about your reproductive rights? They're doing this so that these women will be free and could pursue their dreams uninhibited. Do you think that's why these companies are doing it? Or do you think companies do what they do for their profit margin? You see, if you don't make that child and you stay working for us, we'll be able to continue making maximum dollar off of your labor. If you do make that child, you leave our workforce and then we have to pay you maternity leave. Then we have to pay you time off to go and see about your child. We don't want that. And here's the thing. The way I see it. So many people always speak about, regularly in the Black community, speak about generational wealth and building generational wealth and building a legacy. Well, the thing is, you could only do that with a family, with offspring. And the reality is, regardless of how many offspring you have personally, you're always building someone's legacy. If you're working, your labor is going to someone's legacy. It could be going to yours, it could be going to Google's, it could be going to Amazon's, it could be going to Twitter's, it could be going to Ansa McCall, it could be going to Massey, it could be going to anyone else's. But it's going somewhere. The labor that you work, the labor that you put out there, there's always some excess in that labor. Where is that excess of labor going to go? Many companies, many corporations are designing a system where all of your excess labor is trapped within their corporation. All of your excess labor is profit towards that corporation. While before, what it was is all of your excess labor went towards building your own legacy, so that when your child comes, there's a possibility your child has a better starting point than you did. You're building a legacy, building that generational wealth. But no, you're having none of that now. All of that extra goes into this group, this corporation. By the way, most of those billionaires and millionaires, they're having families, they're building legacies, and they'll be sending that down through their legacy. Your labor builds up someone else's legacy. Now, I am not saying that you have to go have family or you have to go have children. I'm not even saying that. I'm just, to me, looking at what seems to be the facts as they are laid out, reality as it's laid out in front of us. And it seems like, to me, there's a concerted effort to trap all of that, what would have been family building wealth, into corporations. And it saddens me that it seems so many of my generation, so many millennials, have bought fully, wholesale into that idea. Let's not have children. It's too expensive. It's selfish. This world is falling apart. We can't do it. So we're going to spend all of our effort and resources into building someone else's legacy. That's what would really help this world. I don't believe that. And I don't think those corporations believe it either. And I think some of that is us believing a lie that was pushed us. Now, you could have your own reasons for having or not having a family, by all means, as I've said so many times. But think about it and ask yourself, is it really your own reason? Or is it something that you've heard that sounds good outside? Is it something that you were convinced about on Twitter? Is it something that you're just a bit worried about? You haven't built up that courage quite yet. And to me, being a new father here, I think family forces some maturity. Not saying that you should go try and have a family to force yourself to become mature, but it is what it does. You're now fully in charge of another living human. If you make a mistake, this human perishes, and you would face the consequences for that. That changes life for you instantly. That forces some level of maturity. And maybe when some people talk about the extended childhood of the millennials, some of it may be because they aren't having families that young anymore either. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Tell me what you think. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Tell me where you think I'm wrong. Drop that comment. If you like this video, hit like. If you think this is something interesting that someone else may be interested in, hit share. Share it to people who may be interested in this kind of content. And I'm trying to look to have a lot more of these coming out here on this YouTube channel. So subscribe and hit that notification bell. Also, we have the nightly Mindful Lives. We didn't have any this past week, as I said previously, an injury, but we're looking to continue with those. So be subscribed, stay tuned, and I will see you in the next video.